Harness Players Podcast back on the In the Money Media YouTube channel and continuing on the audio side. Of course, if you're listening on the audio, we just had Adam Bowden of Diamond Creek Farm on to talk about the supplement of Sabonis, $40,000 they had to put him into the Grade 1 Canadian Pacing Derby up at Woodbine Mohawk Park. May have eliminations this weekend. If not, will be a final next weekend going for sizable money. Of course, if you're just watching this video, I encourage you to try and find your way over to that interview we had with Adam Bowden over on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. If you're on the podcast side, stay where you are, okay? Because that's where you are. And we're getting ready to talk about some great racing up in Alberta. Century Downs for Wednesday, August the 20th, has a pick four carryover, $1 pick four minimum. Carryover of just over $3,000. Of course, as always, for these types of conversations, we have Mikee here with us. And especially when we're talking Century Downs, we get the man whose name might not be Century Downs. It's, in fact, Murray Slough, but he very well could be the namesake for this track. At least, Murray, when I think of Century Downs, I think of your beautiful face first and foremost. That's a compliment.
Face for radio, but yes, maybe my voice you think of, hopefully, but yeah, some people consider me synonymous with Century Downs, and I'm okay with that.
I wanted to be a little subtle, but you're right, Murray. I do envision the full picture. But tell us a bit more. You have the specifics. Of course, it's $1 pick four minimum. It covers races 7 through 10 on Wednesday night.
Correct.
Carryover amount, and what's the takeout we're looking at?
The takeout, unfortunately, is 25%, but we do have the $3,012 carryover to reduce that takeout on Wednesday night. Racing starts at 6:15 here in Calgary, 8:15 for you Eastern people. It's the last 4 races on the card, so we're looking at a little bit later on in the evening when hopefully we have a little, things more to ourselves, and it is a $1 minimum. I'm expecting at least $10,000 in new money. That's what we've had before. Would love to see that or even more. And hopefully people get involved in this pick four.
And with that 8:15 Eastern time, of course, you said 6:15 Mountain time slot. That's going to make you a perfect side dish for another big racing circuit just across your Alberta border. With the Assiniboia also racing on Wednesday night.
Which we just covered. But yes, that's a different podcast, different video. But yeah, Wednesday night, pick fours from Western Canada. Why not, right? Ours is good. Theirs is also looks pretty interesting.
There are a bunch of people watching this video or even listening to the podcast going, that's where I know him from. I know him from the Assiniboia podcast that just happened. Of course, Mikee here, too. He's cutting in and out because the government really doesn't want him broadcasting. And I don't know what he said to have such an not an asterisk, but a crosshair on his head. Let's talk about, though, these Century Downs races, Murray, starting with race number 7, overnight event. $7,800 the purse. It's a filly and mare claiming pace. 8 go postward. Of course, on Twitter, you noted that we got pretty sizable fields through this sequence. 8, 9, 8, 9, I think is how it's laid out. Correct. And then when we were talking about this race before recording, you were suggesting that this could be a fairly formful sequence. And I want to just lay the foundation for some of the handicappers out there, since you watch this day in and day out. It's one thing to read what these horses do on the program page. What benefit do you see from being in your vantage point where, you've watched these races, you've watched the replays, quote unquote? Is there really a lot hidden inside of these lines, or can we take a lot of this for what it is?
I think this sequence is relatively straightforward from the lines. I think most people are probably going to structure their ticket probably in a similar way to me, which is obviously not optimal, but the second leg, the 2-year-old race, having seen these horses live and in person, of course, every race they've raced, which is, minimal starts, Dave Kelly's filly really has looked the best by far, Faith and Grace. So I consider her the obvious single. I am singling her in my ticket I'm going to talk about today with you guys. It's on nahupicks.com already. I just think you're better off singling a horse that is much the best. What she goes off at to win is immaterial to me. She's a single. The last leg, I think, is easily narrowed down to 5 horses. I really only feel there are 5 horses that can win that race. So you got the second leg, Dave Kelly single. You got the last leg, to me, 5 horses kind of in a toss-up, but not all 9, just 5. And then you've got some area to be a little bit more creative in the first leg and in the third leg. Those are the ones where I think you can make a case for, stretching out or different opinions. Let's say I've got 3 horses in each of those legs in the ticket I'm giving out today. Cases could be made for others. And that's where the sequence really gets interesting.
And for people listening, if they're thinking Murray's using 10,000 different horses to play a $20 million ticket, let's also just remember Murray knows how to scoop the pool at Century Downs as well, because he's watching every single week. And so if you hear him talking this type of ticket structure, even if it's not the most efficient, it's coming from a well-informed place. Let's talk specifically about this opening leg then. It sounds like this is, aside from the single, one of your narrower races. 2 decent morning line chalks by the looks of it, with Senga Nightmare making that big drop in class. This was a preferred type, drawing the 6 hole now. Trust Me a Lot, most apropos name, considering I don't really know if I should trust her in this spot. But Brandon Campbell getting the drive again with the inside draw. Do you who are you targeting specifically in this first leg?
I didn't trust Me a Lot. In fact, I went with I have a 6-5-1 as my top 3 picks, and those are my 3 that I used. And Singing Nightmare is the horse to beat here. This is a horse where she races in the preferred ranks, and she does okay. But when she gets to this notch below, and this is probably 2 notches below actually the preferred level, Ryan Grundy can send this horse, get parked the entire mile, and win, which he's already done earlier this meet from the 8 hole. So this is a horse, as I put in my comments, can take an overland trip. She could take a lot of air. If he leaves out of there and gets parked, do not mentally or physically rip your ticket up, because she could still win. And this is a horse that he just keeps urging her on, and she just keeps going. So that's what I envision in this race. She doesn't have to have the front, but she could tough it out. And I think she is the best in here, but I wasn't willing to single because I'm singling the 2-year-old, who I think is more of a clear winner. So I used the 6 Singing Nightmare. I used the 5 Singing Ramona. She got some time off before her last start. I think she needed it. She got a great 2-hole trip behind Rising Star, finished second, raced well. She's competitive in here. The wild card for me is Daisy Corvette. I used her, the 1 instead of the 2, trying to keep my ticket to a reasonable amount. It's $45. Daisy Corvette has had her best races in her life with Mike Hennessy driving. She has the rail. She has Mike Hennessy. Trust Me a Lot. Hasn't won a race in quite a while. Either is Daisy Corvette. Going to use one or the other. With the driver change to Mike, I use the 1, Daisy Corvette, who has raced at the preferred level here in the past. So she has a lot of class. So 6, 5, and 1 for me here.
Mike, how about you for the first leg of this Century sequence?
I'm similar to Murray. I like the 1. I do think that 1 has possibilities. You get an inside draw now. You get a driver switch. I know 1 for 20 this year, but 6 wins last year. And like Murray said, this horse hasn't been getting maybe the right kind of trips. You get a little bit of drop here too. And I do think that is important at this track. And the fact that they are switching to a driver that's going to probably be aggressive with her, I think that she is worth using. But I mean, it's hard to look past the 6, right? Senga Nightmare just was going forward last time versus better. Now you get another tick drop in class. This horse has 15 wins the last 2 years. So I do think that given the connections and the drop here, that there's going to be more aggression also. It's been coming from the parking lot in these races. I do think that now is going to be a little more forward. It's probably going to be, pointed to the front earlier in this race, and they're going to have to catch her. I'm not interested in the 2. And I know that this horse shows more speed than the other 2. And Campbell, though, always takes his money. Maybe he gets this one down here, but give me the others, because it's like Murray said, you could get some favorites in other legs. So a little 6-1 to start.
The thing that really stood out to me, though, with Daisy Corvette, and of course, Murray, you can inform me on this. Hennessy was also driving for Ellis on Trust Me a Lot. So yes. Do you take anything into the fact that Hennessy presumably had his choice between the 1 and the 2? Of course, Campbell could have had rights to the 2.
I think Brandon was actually named on the 2.
Okay.
But I think Hennessy knows the 1 well. That's the key here, and he gets back reunited with her.
And that to me is probably enough along with the 6-1 morning line, to use her as a little bit of a value choice.
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sold on singing Ramona unless I just want to default, have blind faith in Kelly Howard, which at Century Down sometimes isn't the wrong thing to do.
Mhm.
But at least for me, I'm probably 1-6, as simple as that. Trust me a lot, even with that inside draw. My main concern is, again, she just gets away towards the middle of the pack. She has to go first up, and then she puts in that level finish again. And she's then adding cost onto your ticket while being more likely to probably get second or third inside of that race by virtue of her racing style. So I agree, just a little bit of a liability there in race number 7. Let's talk about the second leg of this Century Downs Pick 4, race number 8. This is the one where Murray was alluding to a strong single. You see her at 6-5 on the morning line. The 3, Faith and Grace, with Dave Kelly in the bike. Dave, brother to Colin Kelly, for those who are familiar with those deeper roots of racing. Colin's now racing out on the East Coast of America. He was up at Western Fair and those circuits for a long while. But Murray, is it common to have a 6-5 morning line favorite at Century, or is that something worth noting?
Not really, unless it's Shark Week.
Yeah.
We're not usually too low there. But
you're talking about the horse specifically, not the television sensation.
That's right.
Yeah.
It may or may not be Shark Week on Discovery Channel, but when Shark Week races, we generally respect him on the morning line. I don't make the morning line, but I do agree with this one. This horse is going to be less than even money. She just has looked the best. When 2-year-olds come out on the track, I stand at the rail, watch them qualify, as any good handicapper should. She looked great in the qualifier. She's done nothing to obviously take me off of her. Won her division of the Emerald Filly Stake. Looked great doing it. The only horse that's even come close to pacing as fast as her, which is I'm not just going by times, obviously, with 2-year-olds, but it's kind of funny that Mystery Shooter, raced a lot faster in her last start, but it's because she was chasing Faith and Grace, right? So, I mean, those two have kind of shown that they can pace a 57 mile, but Faith and Grace was still much the best. The other horses they're young. They can definitely improve. I like the graphics, by the way. Appreciate whoever put in the effort to do that.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. But yeah, for me, Faith and Grace, Dave Kelly's 2-year-olds in general. He's come up with a lot of really nice looking 2-year-olds. He has a horse named Edwin Hanover that's been really nice on the colt side. So barn going well. He's a 355 trainer. Excellent driver. Very good driver. I mean, everyone knows Brandon Campbell's awesome. Hennessy and so on. Dave Kelly's a very good driver. So I have no qualms in keying the 3 here, singling the 3 and putting it all in Dave Kelly's hands.
From my days working at Standardbred Canada, when it would come towards Alberta bred stake season, I'm quite familiar too with how much of a tear Dave Kelly goes on in those provincial races. Mike, though, you were saying that this could be a bit more of an interesting race, and I'm curious what angles you might take in trying to use horses other than the 3 here, because I really don't see any avenue to do so.
Well, I mean, it's 2-year-olds. So, it's 2-year-old fillies, especially, and they can go in and out very quickly. And if you look at a horse like the 4, Mystery Shooter, first time out on July 16th, this horse had a tough post, but was nowhere close. And then they go from there to the stake race there on July the 30th and chased Faith and Grace home, had an inside post, got a better trip, and dropped almost 6 seconds in that start. So, I mean, there's big improvement that can happen with these younger horses. And you get a horse like this who, I mean, that's a pretty easy trip first time out. I mean, that's nothing, I know that the horse was very good and was well meant 2-1 in that spot. But now this horse is probably going to be sub even money in this race. And I do think that others will be trying, and I think that you can use other horses in the race. I think you can use the 4 there. Maybe some more improvement is likely here. I think that the 8, Let's Go Gals, was bet first time out there in that stake, or second time actually in that stake race versus these 2, and was okay. Got a check in there. Was 7-1. Now is probably going to be ignored given the post, but took an overland route last time and still ended up, kicking in 30-1 to finish. So again, another one that's third back that might be able to improve. And then you have Campbell on the 9, who was first time out, also took money in the stake. And he could certainly maybe produce a better effort for this one from the 9 post. So I just think that in this pick 4, if you're going to take a shot against the favorite, this might be the race to do it in because it's young horses. There's chances for improvement. There's chances for regression also on the favorite. And then if you beat this horse, well, now you're alive in a pretty nice ticket, especially if you can get down in that first race, which I think is kind of likely. So I'd be a little spready here. I'd use the 3, the 4, the 8, and the 9. I think that, it's unlikely that some of those long shots win, but they do have a chance. And I do think they make the ticket go much higher.
I'm always torn inside 2-year-old races because I feel like all of the angles we apply to regular races, they exist more on the polar extremes of whatever angles you can take. And it's purely because we don't know what these horses are. A horse like the 3 could have 5 more seconds to shed, and to which point Mike's case kind of crumbles a little bit for some of these other horses to show up more unless they're able to put in that profound of an improvement. But Murray, I want to quickly humor one piece inside of this race using the angle Mike mentioned on the 4-horse Mystery Shooter. The fact that from start 1 to start 2, she got post improvement and was able to at least finish better, more in contention for a larger check of the purse. What if we applied that to a horse like the 1, A Touch of Art, who before the recording you mentioned is related to a pretty sharp horse from Alberta in Divine Art, who won, what was it, like 24?
It was like 20 in a row. Nathan Sobey had the filly, and she was a phenomenal filly, and 120 in a row, got sold to Gerald Longo in California. I believe a full sister, Outrageous Art, Keystone Divine. So the breeding is there for the 1. Hasn't shown much yet. Could she drop 5 seconds? I think conceivably. But that's obviously you're doing the guesswork that is involved in 2-year-old races. She just the difference between her and Divine Art is Divine Art came out and was pretty much good right away, right? So, and this horse has not been, but you never know. It's only 1 start.
Although I think we could also count on our hands the number of standard bred families where one horse is stellar and then the sibling is as stellar. It's more rare than you would actually imagine.
Yeah,
let's move on.
Yes.
Let's move on then to the 3rd leg of this Century Downs Pick 4 sequence. It's race number 9 from 2-year-olds. We go back to our regular overnight competition. These are fillies and mares for an $8,900 purse, $15,000 claiming tag. Dare I say optional, because only 3 inside of this race are in, 2 inside of this race are in for the tag. The 3 Rising Star and the 8 Amped Up Annie. Murray, at least on preliminary look to me, I feel like the morning line has this race fairly hammered down, and I'm just curious if you're in agreement with that, or if maybe I overlooked a couple of things in some of these other horses.
I use the 8. I use 1, 3, and 8, so that's the difference between me and the morning line. Although there's nothing wrong with the 2, she just doesn't win off enough lately for me. But if you're going to get an upset, to me, it's slightly more likely in this race than in the 2-year-old race, because I expect Poker Queen to be bet right down, as she should be. 9 for 15 lifetime is hard to ignore. 4 for 9 this year. The reason I think she's beatable, and maybe this is the leg where we get a price, is if you watch her last race, which of course I did while I was calling it, she followed Amped Up Annie with the livest kind of cover you'd ever ask for. Amped Up Annie came first over, did all the work first over. Poker Queen was following her. I thought just ready to just roar by, and she never went by. It was actually extremely surprising for a horse that loves to win races like Poker Queen. She got the live toe and couldn't get by Amped Up Annie. Now, that's partly why I include Amped Up Annie here in this ticket, because she just raced phenomenal last time doing all that work and hanging on. Unfortunately, as the 8-hole this time, but I'm going to include her anyway. And that's why I can't single Poker Queen, because she should have definitely been able to win that race last time. She should have got by. It was a beautiful trip. But she loves to win races. She's got the rail. Obviously, Phil Giesbrecht and Jerry Hudon, a potent combination. She's the favorite. I used 1, 3, and 8 because for me, I couldn't single her off that race. This is a race where you can make a case for the 2, though. You could make a case possibly for Delta Sunrise picking up Brandon Campbell, although she's 1 for 14 this year. And even the 5, 6, and 7 are not bad mares. They just look like they're a little bit up against it here. I kept it to 3, but I think this is the race where it's a little more wide open than people might think at first glance. And but I did use 1, 3, and 8 here.
I feel like post position is an important element to talk about, though, since you're mentioning, the qualitative Poker Queen was not able to get by Amped Up Annie. But Amped Up Annie, when you look down her page, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it does not look like she really leaves the gate. It looks like she floats off of the gate.
That's right.
While Poker Queen, you have to imagine, from an outside draw in that race too, did something similar, but you see when she gets inside, she's able to get into a more functional spot for her style. And so I'm kind of curious, even though you might get a better price with the 10-1 morning line Amped Up Annie off of the win, there's justification there. How realistic of a factor do you see her being if she has to come from last?
Well, Poker Queen isn't a big lever either, but like you say, if she could be inside, he can get away second or third, and then when he makes a move, he's much closer to the front. He has moved her to the front after the quarter, only when she's had the rail, as you can see, June 7th and July 16th. So that makes sense, what you're saying, but just the way the two horses raced last time, Amped Up Annie put in the bigger effort because she did all the work and held off the horse following her. But will Poker Queen maybe make an early move to the front and this time get the jump on Amped Up Annie, who might have to tough it from behind? Very possible. Another factor in this race is Nathan Sobey was injured in an accident back in June, took 2 months off from driving, and came back slowly by all accounts, but considered himself fit enough to drive just this last Saturday. Took 2 drives from his own stable in the last 2 races and won both of them. So, I mean, I'm not going to leave Nathan out if he's going to come back that red hot, right? So, and this is his own horse, knows her well. Mike did a great job driving her. I do not recommend leaving out Amped Up Annie in this race, just the way she's racing and the way the Sobey barn has been. And Nathan himself just seemed to be, rejuvenated basically off the layoff like a horse can be. So for me, and then Rising Star, she's kind of a question mark because she's winning with authority. Didn't even race last year, and she comes back this year 7 out of 10, but moving up, facing tougher here. So, but loves to win races. So for me, hard to leave out 1, 3, or 8.
Kudos to the PT too for Sobey to get back then when two good.
Absolutely.
I mean, driving a horse, that takes a lot of brute strength.
And he hurt his shoulder, so yeah, not easy.
And I'm going through PT myself. The shoulder is really hard to keep strong. It's not a muscle that you use unless you're a crate guy who's raising the roof every single day, as you see people do on the dockside. But Mike, another element to this race potentially in support of a horse like Amped Up Annie is what does Rising Star add to the pace picture? Because this is a horse for Mike Hennessy that has a lot of ones, specifically at the quarter-mile marker, and Poker Queen is a horse that's probably going to want to be forward. Is this a situation where you might be more open to spreading because there's a chance that these favorites might hook up?
Yeah, I'm not interested in spreading in this race. I get Rising Star. I mean, probably has to, with the step up, just continue this form, and maybe that she will. But as a 6-year-old, we'll see. I mean, 4 straight wins, a lot of, money's going to run through this horse. So I would probably just go with Poker Queen here. And, we always talk about getting separation. And last time Amped Up Annie was able to, she did the work, but she did have separation there on Poker Queen and had enough to hang on for the win. I mean, Poker Queen did close her down, but couldn't quite. I mean, it was like Murray said, was never really getting there. But, when you get the jump like that, sometimes horses can get a little discouraged. And so it seems to me that the switch and posts here, I just think that those are the top 2 in the race. I'm not interested in Rising Star. I'm going to make her prove it here in this spot. She's obviously going to be the pace. She's going to go, but I just think that the better horses are going to be a little more aggressive here. And, Poker Queen probably will be the one with the jump this time. Let's see if Amped Up Annie can close her down. So, and the $1 minimum, I need to shrink down somewhere, especially if I'm going heavy in the 2-year-old race. In this race, I thought that I would probably be heavy on the 1. And then if you're looking for, maybe a little bit of a longer shot, you get, Fresh Campbell on the 4, another closer, a little better post. This horse has raced okay. Lots of shares this year, 6 seconds. So maybe Campbell could make the difference with this one. Obviously, needs to step up to beat these, but just another angle, new driver, and obviously he moves horses up all the time. So if you're looking for an alternative, maybe the 4, but I would probably be most of my money through the 1.
I also forgot to mention the 7th Century Mock is another that is probably going to go forward here too. So I think, Murray, you've made case for me to maybe use the 8 as a B type here, just because it seems like there could be the fractions to get an in-form horse into the floor. Because that's the main thing. Like Century Downs, it's not a track that's like heavily banked necessarily, right? Like,
right.
And so
it's tough on the turns.
It's tough on the turns, and you were also making note that the speed's been doing quite well too. So if you're a horse that has to come from maybe even 5 or 6 lengths off the lead at the 3/4, there's little chance you're probably going to find the winner's circle doing that. So is it safe to say that, for one, you would need the fractions, and on top of that, this is a race that could have those fractions?
I think so. As long as Century Mock leaves, which she usually does, especially when Logan drives, Logan Gillis tangles with the 3. Giesbrecht doesn't want to let too many go. He may even move early, prop the pace. And then the move to come from behind at Century Downs, as you're describing, Ray, it's to go wide and just launch down the backside. Because if you're 6th at the 3/4 and way out wide, that turn, you don't make up any ground. And then the stretch is too short. So if they go fast to the half, so I could see Sobey trying the 3 wide launch move. He did it with one of his wins on Sunday with Oe Como Va, a fun horse to say, Santana Blue Chip mare. So that I could see that kind of trip ramped up, Annie. It's going to have to be a come from behind trip, but I don't think there's any way they get a cheap half with the horses that are assembled here. Rising Star has been getting cheap halves. I don't think she gets one here today, and I'm including her, but I do see it being a quick pace.
And I'm probably going to add the 2 if only I'd known 2, just because that one's probably going to be in a forward spot. And if Dave Kelly can get that clearance up the backstretch, could make that pouncing move at the right time. Payoff leg is race number 10. This, of course, the payoff leg to the $1 minimum pick 4 at Century Downs for Wednesday, August the 20th. Over $3,000 in the carryover pool to help Noel the usual 25% takeout on this wager. $10,000 in new money would make it effectively 0 takeout, right? That math checks out on that, Murray.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, I could check with Buck Swope, but I believe that's correct.
Buck Swope is all of our resident calculators. So
we're a math expert, yes.
We'll double check that off of the air. But this race, you were saying, is almost a dartboard, just because the horses that are in form can all find their way to the winner's circle, but there's an easy process of elimination to cull the ticket.
Right. For me, I put a line through a horse if I don't think it's a win candidate. I've got pretty long lines through the 1, 5, 8, and 9. I do not think these horses can win. So we've got a 5-horse race. I mean, the 1 has a 1 in 2 years. The 5 is 1 for the last 2 years. 8 hasn't been competitive. 9 is 1 for the last 2 years. 2 for 80 lifetime. Okay, so those horses aren't going to win. If they get 3rd, 4th, or 5th, doesn't matter to me, right? We're playing a pick 4. So we're left with 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Any of those horses, I honestly think you can make a fairly good case for, and that is why I've included all 5 in the way I structured my ticket that way, where I went 3 by 1 by 3 and then 5 at the end. Bobby Big Wheels is my top pick just because he's shown the most in recent weeks, does pick up Hennessy, and, has at least a decent record this year and just the best form lately. Carving Credit is a horse that's only been in the 10,000 condition claimer 3 starts, a third, a second, and a third, and is showing some speed. It just 1 for 19 lifetime, not the greatest, but has been racing well enough in this class that you can make a case for him. Disco Dancer, similar, has only been in the claimer a few times, has had some tough trips. He'd be a nice long shot to have. Matchmaker's Pick raced way better last time, and now is the 2-hole in Giesbrecht, and got second last time in this class at 64-1, and that was against Where's Poppy, who is 20 lengths the best and isn't in here. And Dip and Tuck picks up Brandon Campbell from Kelly Ducharme, which is about as big a driver change as you can get at Century Downs. So those 5, and this is going to be probably a pretty wild race in terms of horses leaving that you wouldn't expect, horses coming from anywhere. But I really am confident it's going to be one of those 5 that hit the wire first: 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Mike, you were very clearly nodding to those horses. Are you nodding to every single horse that Murray's using?
Not all of them, but I think it's probably the 2, the 3, and the 4. I mean, they're drawn inside. Murray made a lot of good points there. I mean, the 2 raced very well last time from an outside post, now draws inside. You get a driver switch there. You get Campbell on the 3 for 0% barn. So, I mean, these horses are tough. I mean, 3 for 54, 2 for 39, 3 for 23. I mean, it's, the 5's 2 for 70. The 1 is 3 for 119. I mean, these horses really do not win, but now they're all against each other. So somebody has to win the race, right? And so I'm going to go with the top human connections. And I think it's the 2, the 3, and the 4. The 6 is 2-1 morning line. He can beat me. I don't care. He's 1 for 19. If he wins, fine. I don't care. That's, I just give me the inside 3 horses. One of those 3 are going to probably stagger their way to the wire.
That's very reasonable.
My problem, though, with a lot of this field is maybe sans the 2 and the 4, because you see they make that move that Murray talks about in the backstretch where they blitz to the lead and then they spurred off to win their races, at least when they found the winner's circle. But you look down the page, otherwise, this is a group that straggles home every single week. And at the very least, looking at a horse like Carving Credit, it's somewhat refreshing to see someone entered in this race who can take some air and then not finish 10 lengths off of the leader. So that's
come home in 29.
And that's the main question mark I have with him, Murray. Yes, he's going to be a short price here, but is he truly that much more versatile than some of the others where it's worth hurting the equity of your ticket in some sense to just try and get over the finish line?
I think he's going to try for the front and probably get the front. And that's always important at Century Downs. The fact that he came home in 29, 2 straight starts is also encouraging. The 1 for 19 and the lack of a killer instinct is not encouraging. And the interesting thing about posts at Century Downs is 1 through 5 are all pretty basically good. 6, 7, 8 are basically bad. It actually drops off a lot in win percentage after the 5. So being the 6 actually does make, I think, a fair amount of difference for this horse. I can understand Mike's attitude of let him beat me, no problem at all there. But the horse actually has raced better than these other ones in his last 2 starts, at least, for sure.
And I'm even hesitant to use a horse like the 2 Matchmaker's Pick. Of course, he was able to go 56 last time, but I put him into the category of he was chasing a better horse, and sometimes you'll see a horse go way faster than they're capable, and it makes you wonder, depending on how the pace sets up here, how much of a punch can he truly pack? Of course, 3rd start off of the bench, maybe the connections have figured something out, but he still has a lifetime mark of 58 and change, while a horse like Bobby Big Wheels can go 56, Carving Credit can go 56. Of course, everyone says time only matters in jail. I'm not looking to go to jail anytime soon, so that's not really anything I'm going to subscribe to. But is there any legitimacy to that in some sense, Murray, that there could be that much of a par based on just how fast these horses can actually go?
Well, it is tough to gauge because they were all chasing Where's Poppy for mostly their last few starts. So they all went faster than they would normally go. And they definitely have a suck along element, because if you look at the only horse that was really pacing in 56 before facing Where's Poppy was Bobby Big Wheels. But when he pulled last time, he couldn't get by either Matchmaker's Pick or Carving Credit. So that's the knock on him. So that's why it makes it a race where it's very hard to narrow down besides the 5 I did. And, if it was a name contest, Bobby Big Wheels wins by open lengths, but they're going to decide it on the track. And I still think he has the best form, but he's not a horse that you can really trust. It is also interesting, nothing wrong with James Junquist, but Mike Hennessy jumps up behind a horse, and Mike's been pretty hot, and he can move a horse up as well. So you have that factor as well in here.
I was going to say, I loosely know Jamie, because even back when we were doing stuff with Running Aces in the day, he was competing down there.
Yeah,
and tongue-in-cheekily, I was going to say, how much do we blame Jamie for the horse not going forward?
The horse actually only started to race good this year when James started to drive. It raced okay at Century Mile, but down here it was terrible until James got up, started to race better. But it is an interesting change to Mike in this time. This is definitely first time Mike. He's never driven this horse. So it's something to note. Yeah,
the payoff leg race where every horse is scared of the finish line. I can understand going Murray's route, and especially, with that anchor single of the 3 in the second leg for Dave Kelly, that opens the door for you to just kind of spread and hope.
Right.
Unless you're Mike, thinking you're going to get the long shot in the 2-year-old race, and then you're going to watch the 1-9 win anyway. you're going to hope then that your slim opinion in the last can actually get you home. But thank you, Murray, for coming on to talk about Century Downs. Again, go over the betting schematics of this and also just what's going on at Century.
Well, we only have 2 weeks left in our meet is one thing I'll mention. So we're racing tomorrow, Wednesday night at 6:15. We race Saturdays at 12:45. We have one more week of that at the end of August. And then that's it for harness racing. We have a little bit of a break and then thoroughbreds come in. So definitely catch us in, it's around September 20th when the thoroughbreds start. But yeah, 2 weeks left in the meet. So lots of stakes races still to come. We've got this pick 4 carryover. We're just, going to finish strong as we do here in Southern Alberta. And Wednesday night, 6:15 is the start time for our card. My $45 ticket is up at nahoopicks.com. Check out all my picks there. I've been known to give out lots of cold tries and everything on my picks there, which you generally have to have it cold because it pays $30, but still they're there. And tomorrow night, looking forward to it.
Well, if I remember correctly, Ralph Klein Memorial's upcoming, right?
Ralph Klein Memorial actually already happened. So yeah, we had that. You missed it. It's on the August long weekend.
Hambo weekend.
It was Hambo weekend.
It's on Hambo Day, so I could see why you missed it. We're up against the Hambo, but it was a great race. Mama's Work of Art won, Dave Kelly in the bike. That is one of our biggest stakes for sure.
Yeah, but you're going to end the meet with some Alberta bred stuff, I imagine.
Right. We have Alberta Plainsman, Alberta Princess coming up. We had the eliminations last weekend, finals coming up. Love to see the 3-year-old Alberta breds in action in those races, in the stake races.
And you can also follow him on Twitter at Murray Slough. Not only will you get Century Downs stuff from him, you'll see how many Del Mar pick 5 pools he takes down in a single meet.
And some dog pictures.
Some dog pictures from a dog that looks eerily like mine with a few adjustments.
That's true. Very true.
Come in here. Come in here. Oh, she doesn't want to come in here. She's standing right in the doorway right now, afraid of a cameo. Of course, Mike, thanks for hopping on too. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Harness Players Podcast. Subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel for more, not only harness racing content, but horse racing content on the whole. And maybe even just some other furry friends to stop by along the way. More harness racing action to come through the 2025 season. Of course, Breeders' Crown upcoming in October. We have racing from the Red Mile coming up in just a month's time. So plenty more. And of course, on the thoroughbred side, that March to the Breeders' Cup is ongoing for the first weekend in November. But that's it for now. Toodaloo.